The singles charts have done something that hasn't happened for quite some time. We've seen some dramatic drops from songs that have been a staple of the top 10 for some time. We've had a few new entries as well, but perhaps one of the biggest changes is that we have a brand new #1 single, a song that, for all intents and purposes, really isn't all that new. The track New Rules from newcomer Dua Lipa has registered her third top 10 single and her first UK #1 hit, having originally debuted at number 75 before skyrocketing to number 9 near the beginning of August and eventually reaching the top spot 2 weeks later, also becoming the first #1 hit from a female solo artist in almost 2 years, the last being the track Hello by Adele. Having listened to Dua Lipa's debut album, I actually thought it was a decent little pop album, hardly anything groundbreaking or revolutionary, but as far as your bog standard pop album from a budding artist in her early 20s, it was a decent little effort. Out of all the songs on that album, it's very ironic that the song that I personally deemed to be the weakest on the whole project is the very one that the British consumer has made #1. First off the bat, the track is billed under the musical genres of EDM, electropop and tropical house. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? Never mind that the tropic house elements are weak to non-existent, but the instrumentation itself lacks some real vibrancy, energy and vigour. The use of the horns here are particularly flat and rather one-dimensional. The synth steel drum sounds lack any real liveliness, the drum machines are bog standard, and you've got the additional annoyances of low droning effects and warped vocal inclusions. Lyrically, the track isn't all that terrible. In fact, it's pretty simple yet to the point. Billed as empowering, when in reality it's just a case of common sense, the song sees Dua disciplining herself to not reacquaint herself with her previous flame since she believes that it'll lead to her being left with egg on her face. First one sets the scene out with her alluding to a list that she's religiously quoting in order to make sure that this doesn't happen, with the second verse hinting at, only very slightly, that the guy in question was holding her back. How and why? We'll never know, and that he's only interested in a plough and split rather than going for something long term, or at least that's what I read into it. The chorus, which I admit I rather like, is where Dua expands on her so-called list, to which she commits herself to repeat constantly in the bridge, highlighting to not respond to his calls, not invite him into her place as he'll end up staying as a result of her weakness, and that everything will eventually lead to him ending up in her bed, ending on the line, "If you're under him, you ain't getting over him," which is probably the best line of the whole track. So, the track isn't horrible by any stretch of the imagination, so why do I find myself not gravitating towards this song? I think why this song doesn't work for me is that it feels rather flat, lifeless and completely forgettable, especially when it's in amongst a plethora of other songs that are way more livelier, energetic and are genuinely more enjoyable than this one, whether it's the singles in the charts or on the album that this song came from. The music fails to grab my attention. Vocally, Dua sounds rather nonplussed and bored, and lyrically it's pretty formulaic, in the sense that it has an idea but very little in terms of expansion. There are plenty of Dua Lipa songs that have way more appeal than this one. Genesis, IDGAF and Garden to name a few. Hell, the first 2 tracks listed here are way more tropical than New Rules. Overall, I can chalk this up as a pretty average song and one that I'm definitely not going to be replaying anytime soon.